For months, attention has focused on Russia's battlefield challenges and the economic pressure created by sanctions and wartime spending. But over the past several days, another issue has been drawing attention inside the country. In several regions, fuel shortages have become severe enough to disrupt daily life, creating long queues, rising frustration, and growing public concern. What makes this different isn't simply the lack of gasoline, it's the way ordinary people are responding. Reports and videos circulating online show arguments breaking out at fuel stations, drivers losing patience after waiting for hours, and isolated incidents turning violent. While these events don't represent the entire country, they illustrate how quickly public frustration can grow when basic necessities become harder to access. In today's video, we'll examine how the fuel situation developed, why it has become a national issue, what it may reveal about Russia's internal stability, and how the government is responding. We'll also look at the political pressure facing both Moscow and Kyiv before finishing with the latest developments connected to the war. Let's begin with what's happening at Russian gas stations. Across multiple regions, drivers have described spending hours waiting to refuel. In some areas, lines stretch well beyond the station itself, forcing vehicles to queue along nearby roads. Social media footage appears to show motorists recording unusually long traffic lines as they slowly crawl toward the pumps. For many families, the concern goes beyond inconvenience. Fuel is needed to commute to work, transport supplies, operate farms, and keep businesses running. When deliveries become unreliable, the effects spread far beyond the gas station. Unfortunately, growing frustration has reportedly led to several confrontations. Local media and online videos have documented arguments between drivers over places in line, accusations of queue jumping, and in some cases, physical altercations. Authorities have also investigated separate incidents involving weapons following disputes at fuel stations. Although these incidents remain isolated, together they paint a picture of increasing public tension. Situations that would normally end with raised voices are, in some cases, escalating much further. The fuel shortages have also created unusual scenes. Videos circulating online show motorists waiting for extended periods before reaching the pumps. Some drivers reportedly ran out of fuel while still in line, leaving them to push their vehicles forward by hand. Others have used binoculars or climbed onto nearby structures simply to estimate how far they are from finally reaching the front of the queue. Whether every clip reflects conditions everywhere is difficult to verify, but the steady flow of similar footage from different regions has fueled discussion about the seriousness of the shortages. The larger concern is what these shortages may indicate. Russia is one of the world's largest oil producers, so seeing prolonged fuel disruptions naturally raises questions. Analysts point to several possible contributing factors, including refinery disruptions, transportation challenges, military demand, and logistical bottlenecks. Whatever the precise balance of causes, the result is the same for many citizens: longer waits, uncertain supplies, and growing frustration. When essential goods become difficult to obtain, public confidence can begin to weaken. History has shown that shortages often become more than economic problems. They can evolve into political problems as well. And that brings us to the next development. As public frustration has grown, criticism of Russia's leadership has become more visible online. Independent journalists, commentators, and some citizens have questioned how a country with vast energy resources could experience such persistent fuel problems. At the same time, Russian authorities continue to enforce strict laws governing public criticism related to the military and the war. Several prominent voices have faced investigations, arrests, or legal restrictions after making statements critical of government policy. Supporters of these measures argue they protect national security during wartime. Critics argue they discourage open discussion about problems affecting ordinary citizens. Regardless of where one stands, the contrast is striking. While long fuel lines dominate social media inside Russia, the government's focus has increasingly shifted toward controlling information and limiting criticism. That raises an important question. Can tightening political control solve an economic problem, or does it simply delay a larger debate about the challenges the country is facing? As fuel shortages continue to dominate headlines, Another trend has become increasingly difficult to ignore: growing public frustration. For years, criticism of Russia's leadership has carried significant risks. Many citizens have chosen to remain silent, while others have limited their opinions to private conversations with friends and family. But as economic pressure increases, more people appear willing to express their concerns publicly, especially online. Videos shared across social media show residents discussing the rising cost of living, shortages of essential goods, and the long waits at fuel stations. While these clips represent only a small portion of Russia's population, they have attracted considerable attention because public criticism of the government has traditionally been far less visible. Independent commentators have also become more outspoken. Some argue that Russia's current economic difficulties are closely tied to the enormous financial demands of the war. Others believe that years of centralized decision-making have made it harder for local officials to respond quickly when problems emerge. At the same time, the Kremlin has continued its campaign against voices it considers harmful to national interests. Several journalists, bloggers, and activists have reportedly faced investigations or legal action after criticizing the military or government policies. Russian law places strict limits on public statements regarding the armed forces, and officials have repeatedly warned that spreading what authorities describe as false information can result in criminal charges. Supporters of these laws say they are necessary to protect national security during wartime. Critics argue they discourage honest discussion about problems affecting everyday citizens. This debate has become even more significant as economic difficulties become increasingly visible. For many Russians, the concern is no longer about politics alone. It's about daily life. Business owners worry about transportation costs. Farmers worry about fuel needed for harvesting equipment. Truck drivers worry about making deliveries on time. Families worry about whether essential goods will become more expensive if transportation costs continue to rise. These practical concerns often have a greater impact on public opinion than political speeches. History shows that governments can often manage criticism during periods of stability. It becomes much more difficult when economic hardship begins affecting millions of ordinary people. Another issue drawing attention is the uneven distribution of available fuel. Some analysts argue that larger cities appear to receive priority because they are economic and political centers. Residents in smaller regions have complained that supplies arrive more slowly, forcing them to wait longer or travel farther in search of gasoline. Whether these differences are the result of logistics, infrastructure, or government priorities remains a matter of debate. Nevertheless, the perception itself can increase public resentment, particularly among communities that already feel overlooked. Meanwhile, financial markets have reflected growing uncertainty. Investors continue to watch Russia's economy closely as military spending remains high and sanctions limit access to international markets. Although daily market movements don't always indicate long-term economic health, sharp declines can reduce confidence and raise concerns about future growth. The government, however, maintains that the economy remains resilient despite external pressure. Officials continue to emphasize domestic production, stronger trade with non-Western partners, and measures designed to stabilize critical industries. Whether those policies will ease public concerns remains uncertain. What is clear is that Russia now faces pressure on multiple fronts. Military operations continue, economic challenges persist, fuel shortages have disrupted daily life, and public frustration appears more visible than it has been in years. The question now is whether these pressures remain manageable or whether they begin reinforcing one another in ways that become increasingly difficult to contain. In the next chapter, we'll shift our focus to Ukraine, where recent political decisions have sparked their own controversy, even as the war continues on the front lines.